Hello YouTube. Today we're going to talk about the Primus OmniLite Ti stove. Now we originally had bought a MSR WhisperLite universal stove and played with it, and we found it's a good, rugged, reliable stove. Great build quality and whatnot, for, made in America and everything, by an Oregon company. But we found that the thing just weighed quite a little bit too much and didn't pack down as small. For backpacking and so forth. This is something to use, generally around. So, I got to looking at all the various manufacturers and so forth, and looking at reviews, and seeing which one was the Primo Deluxe. If you spare no expense, which one would you get? Well, the one that kept coming back to the forefront was the Primus OmniLite Ti. There's two versions of this stove. One is of course, the one that's made out of steel, and then there's the one that's made out of titanium, which the regular one's just called the Omni. This is the OmniLite Ti. Well, the OmniLite Ti is is about twice the size of this one, and more in line as far as size as the WhisperLite. Now, when you're backpacking, space is a concern. So getting a smaller stove is a little better. Another problem we had with the larger stoves is that we generally carry little titanium pots when we go backpacking. And we found that the WhisperLite would not hold a standard size titanium pot that most people carry. It was just too unstable because the burner arms sat too far out. So, that was another concern that we found that this stove would alleviate. Two, we had already bought in the titanium stands for the WhisperLite, titanium stand for the WhisperLite. It did seem to work good, but we figured, well, we already have the stand for it, might as well get the stove that goes with it as well. Another nice functionality about these particular stoves is that you can get a burner quieter cap that not only quiets the sound, but allows you to have more control over simmer. Simmer on the WhisperLite was difficult to really get. Another thing was fuel use and efficiency. A smaller stove uses less fuel generally for boiling water and so forth. Of course, you can still crank it up and so forth. This particular stove supports all the same fuel types as the WhisperLite, and a few ones that, extra, though we haven't tried all of them. Like, supposedly this will burn JP8. The WhisperLite claims to not be able to. People have burned heat in this one, which the WhisperLite claims not to be able to. You can do heat with the WhisperLite supposedly, but you have to modify it to get that by taking getting a spare kerosene burner jet and modifying it. Now, another feature that these have is they have a separate gas adjustable burner valve. So I can really fine tune how much fuel is going into this burner. Another thing is that I can cap this let this out and clear anything that's in the cable. Whereas the other one is a little more difficult. It was all or nothing. Also, I can take this one and have more control over letting a little bit of fuel in the preheater pad. When I'm using white gas or kerosene. When you're using white gas or kerosene, you definitely want to have a way to clear out this cable. It's not so bad with the gas. When you're using the propane based or butane based canisters, because when you cap this, that gas is going to come out when you disconnect and so forth here. But it's nice to be able to just clear this tube out of any fuel, because you don't want to leave any fuel whatsoever in this right here, because you will cause damage to this possibly, because fuels are corrosive. You'll wear out your gaskets in there, because the fuel's sitting there, on the gasket constantly. It'll work against that. And another issue you get is that as the fuel evaporates, it leaves any impurities or gunk that may be in the fuel inside the tube, which would cause tube blockage. So you may try to fire up your stove one day and don't get nothing out the other end. It's because that tube's blocked or that valve is blocked or whatnot. Another nice thing about this kit is that the pump that comes with it is completely metal right here. Now, one of the concerns I'd had with the other, and I'd actually bought a different pump to go with it, was because that plastic pump that the MSR comes with is kind of flimsy. I'd be scared I'd drop it and it'd shatter into a million pieces. Whereas this is made of metal. This ain't breaking. Even the fuel tubes on these are made of metal. And these are easier to disassemble. You don't even really need any special tools, to get down in there. If you need to take it apart and so forth. Just got to make sure you get it right. It comes with a little tool thing for disassembling when you need to. And, it's all metal. Even the piston's metal. And one other feature that these have, that most don't have, is, the MSR ones anyway, is that it actually has a real leather pump seal in there, whereas the MSR's got the plastic one. The leather ones actually last a little longer, and they give a lot better seal. So you can really pump these things up. But anyway, that's part of the reasons why we went for this. Now, I've gotten one, and my business associate and friend also got one, Mike. This particular one here is his. He's using propane fuel on mine. I'm using an isopropane tank on here. But like I said, you can also use the little fuel tanks and use white gas. I've got some white gas in here, so if I need to fire that up, I can do so. I'm not a big fan of kerosene or using the other kind of fuels in routine use, but it's nice to know that I have the capability to burn them. I've burnt white gas in these, and it burns quite well. And, I can say, without a doubt that these are quality stoves. I've bought the cap adjustment for these. Now, these are really easy to put on and off. You just basically unscrew this. Now, there's a few third-party companies that make caps for these types of stoves, but it looks like they're 3D printing them, and I don't know what kind of material they're made out of. This is actually made out of real metal. This is the one that actually the manufacturer makes. Now, I've got a little, because I've been using it's got a little bit of gunk on it and so forth, so I need to clean that off. But it just screws on there. There's your burner, sits right down here in the middle. and you can take these and get to the burner. But all you have to do is just screw this on, screw it off. Now, like I said, the third-party ones, they just sit. You would actually have to take this piece off, the normal burner, and then just sit it down in there. Whereas this, it's built in. It's actually fastened in there, so it ain't coming off. So I prefer this version better. And I think we picked these up for 35 bucks. They work quite well. And you get it on there and screw it on. But this is an add-on for this. You have to get this separately, and it replaces the one that comes with it. Now, one thing to understand about these stoves is they've got a little more kick than, say, a little rocket stove that you just mount on top of the tank. If you're going to use these, I highly recommend that you light them before you put the pot on it. What I've discovered is that if you put the pot on there with the water to boil and you go in there to light it, it kind of puts a lot of gas out at first as it's filling up, and before you get a chance to adjust it, it'll actually create a little bubble of propane gas that will just go off all at once, ignite. So what you want to do is leave this uncovered, turn your gas on just a little bit, you can just barely hear it, then light it. And then you can adjust it however you want. Now, if you turn this thing up, you can get that cranking like a blowtorch. But you can also adjust it here. But at the same time, you can also adjust it here. Let's see, I'm tightening it up. So you have two adjustment points. And like I said, you can get that right down there where the simmer is just perfect. By adjusting these two valves, how much fuel you've got actually going to the stove. Now, when fuel comes into this tube, it's vaporizing. And when it gets to here, it's gas coming out. So what you want to do is get that right mixed balance of, how much is coming in here to vaporize and how much is coming out after the fact. And when you get that right mixture, it's perfect. So you can actually simmer on this, if you have a frying pan or whatnot. And when you're done with it, what you want to do is you can shut that one off initially, but then take this, close it, and then let that off, and it lets the excess gas out of there and burns it off. And then that way, you don't have any gas in here. If you were burning the white gas, you'd shut this valve off first, leave it burning, let the liquid fuel burn off, and when it's done and dies, it will have burned all the fuel that was in the tube, and then you can close this one. Now, just to show you what the difference is between these, with the cap and without the cap, I'm going to kick this on. Yeah, that's... I'm going to light both of these up. Okay, I'm going to light mine. You hear the difference in sound? That one sounds more like a jet engine, whereas this one you really don't hear. So watch this. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Notice the difference in the sound? This one's louder than this one. I notice I've shut this off. I'm letting that burn out. And then once it's completely out, then you close this valve. On mine, close this valve off. So you notice how clean it is? You're not even seeing the flame there. Let it sit for a little bit and shut that off. But this burns more efficiently, in my opinion. And it's easier to control. You get more blue flame than yellow flame. Now, one thing to bear in mind with these caps is you should not use these with with most liquid fuels. It's probably fine for your gas, camping gas stuff like your propane and isopropane. It might work with white gas. I haven't tested it yet, but do not use it with kerosene or diesel or gasoline or any of those kind of things, because it won't burn well, and you'll probably waste your fuel doing that, or cause a problem or a fire or something. The manufacturer recommends not to use that, this particular one for those purposes. But anyway, we've been using these, playing with these, and we'll probably do a follow-up video at some point, with what we think of these. And so far they're working quite well. I like these better than the Whisper Lights. Did I make a bad decision buying the Whisper Light? No. I believe the Whisper Light is still a really good stove. It's better for larger jobs, like say, if I was doing some hardcore cooking for lots and lots of people, had a big pot, like some of the the Bushcraft pots and stuff that I have. It's probably a better stove for that. I'm not going to use this stove for those kinds of things too often. Whereas the Whisper Light, it can handle it and handle anything I throw at it. It's a much more rugged stove. It's made out of steel. It's a heavier stove. For something to keep around the house or in the vehicle, it's a much better choice. I'm glad I have it. It will probably be used mainly for keeping around the house for hurricanes and things of that nature. We might still bring it out, camping occasionally. It depends on whatever we're doing. It's good to have many different options. So to say that the stove was a waste and just go out and buy this one, well, depends on what your needs are. If you buy a Whisper Light, you made a good choice. Use it. But if you're going to do any backpacking and want to carry something like that, this stove, if you can afford it, because they're a little bit more expensive, actually quite a bit more expensive, this may be a better option for you, where if weight and having the lightest thing, and, or if you're concerned about your pot size and not want to carry big pots, things like that, go for this stove. It's a good quality stove. Primus makes good stuff. And if you don't like the Primus brand and you don't like the MSR brand, there's also there's a few other brands out there. There's Kova. There's Triangula, if you like to use the alcohol stove type stuff. They make good stuff. Optimus makes a good stove. If you don't have the money to spend on this kind of stuff, try one of those Chinese clones of these stoves. You know, I hear they actually work. You know, buy yourself a BSR multi-fuel stove. You can buy those for $36 on eBay or Amazon. Is it going to last you as long? Probably not. You got to be a little extra careful with them. Probably. But, you know, if it works for you and that's all you can afford, go for it. We haven't tried one of the cheap Chinese ones yet. I may pick one up and see what it can do. If I do, you'll be the first to know. But anyway, thanks for going along with us on our stove adventure, and we'll have lots more to show you. See you next time.
Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please click the like button. If you'd like to see more, click subscribe. You can also click on the bell icon to receive notifications when we upload new videos. If you have questions or suggestions for new videos, please leave a comment down below. You can also consider supporting us on Patreon, or you can join us on our Discord server. The links will be in the description below.